Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of our podcast, LimeLight. I'm your host, Aniket. I'm the founder of LimeChat. And a little bit about LimeLight. We talk about the exciting world of e commerce, of global e commerce. And we have one single aim to help you get very actionable strategies to solve the most challenging problems that you're facing today. We've had more than 10 experts come onto our podcast, talk about various challenging issues like customer acquisition and retention and growing globally. And today we have a very special guest with us, Thomas Parrot, who is the CEO of Naturisimo. He previously led internationally at Beachbody. For those of you who don't know, Naturisimo is one of the leading conscious beauty brands. They're based in the UK and super excited to hear about how things work in the UK today. So, Thomas would love to get a brief introduction from yourself as well.
Well, look, thanks, Aniket, for the invite. I'm thrilled to be here. Let me give you a brief rundown of me. I started way back in the mid '90s in the big book mail order, way before really the internet was a thing. Moved through TV shopping, and then actually landed in direct response TV, working on infomercials in the UK, bringing infomercials from the US into the UK. The 30-minute presentations on TV you might see in the middle of the night. And from that, I actually ended up landing a job at the Beachbody company, working on their fitness, when back in the day, DVDs and nutrition. And I did that for 12 years. And we built out a business in the UK, an international business as well, which went from physical products to streaming and streaming our workouts and digital content, and built out quite a substantial e-commerce business as well. So that's where I came from. I actually left Beachbody and had this whole plan that I was going to be a category design consultant and help e-commerce brands with their category design. And actually landed this job as CEO of Naturisimo, which is actually in some respects was a category design job. I came in to help them with redesigning the category they were in and reformulating the way that we worked as an e-commerce clean natural beauty company. So yeah, that's where I'm now. I've been here almost exactly a year. It's been a hell of a ride, been really interesting. Wasn't planning to get into the beauty business, but it's been fun examining a whole new category.
Awesome. Actually, you've been in Beachbody, which was a much larger company in a very different category, and Naturismo, which would have been a much different scale, and again in the beauty category. So, what kind of things do you see which are similar, and what are the things which you see which are different between these two companies?
It's wild. I wasn't sure if I expected this level of kind of difference, I suppose. Look, the economics are the same, but they're on you just have to take a few zeros away. Beachbody was well over $1 billion company when I was working there, and Nutrisimo is in a sub £10 million business. So it's in that regard, there's quite a few differences, but the economics and the way that unit economics work is not really the same. You just have to take everything into a different context. I think the biggest learning that I had, which was like the hardest learning for me, was just how long it takes to test from a Meta campaign or a Google campaign. When we had a significant spend at the Beachbody company, and we were able to get out of learning really fast. Of course, we had significant spend and a lot of creative. I had a big creative team at my disposal as well. Here, we're a small team. There's really 8 of us in the business side of the team, the marketing and brand and buying team. So it's definitely a smaller team, and we have to really roll our sleeves up and do everything. And of course, then the learnings and the creative process just take a bit longer to really understand. So that's probably the biggest difference, and you have to make adjustments in the way that we run the business because of that, in terms of what we can do from a creative point of view and what we're testing, and be really deliberate with those particular projects.
Makes sense. Like that is always a huge cultural difference between very large companies and like a startup where you're at the initial phase getting things off the ground. And before we deep dive into what kind of things you are working on at Naturismo, can you give a brief idea about the brand as well? Like, what is it that you sell? Who are your customers? And like, what would be like your best selling product?
For sure. Yeah. So look, Naturisimo is a fascinating company. It started in 2008, female founded. The lady, Dr. Christina Reyes, she built that business over 10 years and actually sold it to a sort of family office, a sort of small version of private equity in 2019. And they took it on, moved it to Shopify, and try to keep the basic framework of the business. But essentially, Naturisimo.com is a place where people can come and swap their mainstream beauty that we might call their toxic beauty regime, and they can swap it for clean products. So products without toxins. We have a very strict ingredients policy, a sort of manifesto, if you will, of product ingredients that we will not touch that are in other mainstream beauty products. If you went into your department store, you might find some of those ingredients in the products. We do not touch any of those. We're very, very strict on how that works. We have a sustainability element to what we do as well, which is kind of goes hand in hand. And our main mission really is to help people make clean swaps, but we extend that into helping them make clean swaps for particular points of habit change in their life, whether that's being a teenager and wanting to make a change, or being pregnant and wanting to make a change away from products that potentially could harm your health or be hormone disruptors. Especially around menopause as well. A big market for us is helping women going through the menopause to change their beauty products, which often have had endocrines or similar hormone disrupting products inside them, and they may be wearing those products for a long time, and we're helping them because that necessarily isn't helping their journey through the menopause or other health conditions they may have. So that's really what we do, and we are becoming more and more intense in our way we deliver that message.
Got it. Can you talk a little bit about your customers as well? Like, what is your main customer segment, and what is the main product as well? Or do you have certain bestsellers which work for you, or is it a whole variety which
For
ends up?
sure. So we're not a brand as ourselves. We don't have our own brand beauty products, skincare products, but we resell other brands. So
Yes.
so we have a few brands that are always, I suppose, the most popular for us within our makeup ranges. Brands like RMS, which is a very well-known, in the clean world, a very well-known clean makeup range. But we also have skincare, everything from the sort of cheaper end of the scale. We're Leader and brands like that, which are probably known to people in supermarkets, but also into higher end skincare products. Some very high end products that may be in the 100, 150 pound products like Vintner's Daughter or Tata Harper, really luxurious skincare products. So we touch all the range of price points and but of course with a fundamental point that they must meet our ingredients policy. Now, in terms of, we also run what we call a discovery box and a starter kit business. So a discovery box is a limited number of kits that we build that are really a way for people to discover clean beauty, clean skincare, and we sell that at the beginning of the month. We set that kit up and we send it to our database, and we will pretty much sell that kit out. Sometimes in a matter of days, sometimes it takes a couple of weeks, but it's they're very, very popular kits, but we make them limited. So that's really the core of our business. But we have well over 5,000 SKUs that we sell. We have actually a warehouse behind me. I went through the door behind me. I would go into a fairly substantial warehouse where everything is kept and dispatched from. And we have our own in-house team who manage that as well. So we have a really fabulous unboxing experience when you buy from us. And that's important, right? In the world that we are in beauty, that's like something that the customers really want to feel like a really positive experience when they unbox the product.
Lord. So are the people who buy your products typically the woke kind of customers who would be like, let's say, in their 20s or early 30s?
So it's not really a definition of any particular age or even demographic in that regard. What we tend to find is that it's a broad range of ages, teen all the way through to the post-menopause mature skin. And there isn't, you couldn't put people into a sort of bucket of this is our age of customer, but it tends to be that there is a change in that customer's behavior that has triggered coming to us. And so, like I said before, there's the teen element, there's trying to conceive or pregnancy or breastfeeding. There is menopause, perimenopause, and postmenopause. All of these sort of hormone changing, I suppose, chapters of a life. And there's also, we have what we call clean curious people who are looking at, they're making a change, they've read something, they've heard about something, and they want to make a change and they're interested, and we help them on the journey to make those changes with products that don't give a compromise. Often people think that when you move to a clean or natural product, you're going to compromise on, but we have really made it important that there isn't a compromise when you make that change. So, and then we also have people with health conditions who come to us. Anything from they can't sleep, and sometimes that's because of the ingredients in their mainstream products, and we get them to change that out. Or it can be something as serious as cancer, where people are going through a treatment and they want to remove every single toxin from the environment they're in. And that's everything from their diet to their skincare. And so we help them with that as well. So you can imagine it's a very broad range, and we try not to sort of pigeonhole people, but we do think about them as going through life chapters. And that's really, really an important part of the strategy that we adopted as part of the category design process that I led here.
So next I wanted to actually talk a bit about retention. And I just wanted to understand for your business how important is retention overall for your entire funnel, right? Do you end up making your money back on the first purchase which people do, or typically what kind of retention is required for you to kind of break even or be profitable as brands?
Sure. Look, well, I can tell anyone who's planning to get into the clean beauty reselling business that the margins are not great in this business, and it's tight. I don't necessarily encourage anyone to try and do this. It's a really tough business in that regard. And we have actually one of the first jobs I did when I came here was to really understand the contribution margin at different stages of our funnel. And especially, actually, I just go back before we get into retention, because I think it's important to think about the acquisition funnel and where we looked at the contribution margin. And I think it's absolutely critical if you're an e-commerce business right now and you do not understand the contribution margin that every product is bringing you, then that's a fundamental problem. And we really grappled with that. And actually, Shopify isn't super helpful if you're working in different currencies. Shopify especially can be unhelpful because of the way it pigeonholes you into single currencies and doesn't allow you to add landed costs and these kinds of things. So grappling with that very early on was critical. Once we had understood the cost, the contribution cost, our margins, we were then able to start building out what I learned a trade, I suppose, in the DR TV business, and I really honed this at Beachbody, was building out what we call the margin model at Beachbody, which really understanding what we could afford to spend in our acquisition efforts in order to either break even, or we could then make that into how much margin we should add in for each of our acquisition funnels or channels. And then we built into that our retention. And so retention is really important. We're using Klaviyo. We have for our email, we're using Yahoo for our loyalty and our SMS. Of course, we've got Lime with our Whatspp. So we're trying to make sure we build out a retention funnel that meets the needs of the customers, but also is able to sort of hack in the past some of the problems with emails as well, because that's clearly more and more problems, and we maybe talk about this a little bit later. So retention from our point of view, I want to try and acquire a customer and make some money. Of course, if I can then create a lifetime value, the lifetime value piece for me, depending on the product, is really important. I look at this as, let's think about our starter kit campaign that we run right now, which is really a very inexpensive product, a 20 to 22 pound product that we run meta ads for. We'll bring that customer in, and actually we really are breaking even on that particular product by the time we've shipped it. But we know that within with our retention efforts, within a 45-day window, that we can, depending on the kit, we can take those customers through to another product, potentially a product they've used in that starter kit. That's the main benefit of a starter kit. So they try a few new things and they come back and buy a full size. and then we take them on a journey from there. And for our point of view, we spent a lot of time on our flows and our welcome flows, and they're constantly evolving. We are never thinking that we have solved what our welcome flows or how many emails we should be sending, or whether things should be on smart send or not smart send. We are constantly retesting those pieces to just try and optimize always the flows. And sometimes it's optimizing those flows based on the route the customer took to come in to the business. Maybe it's the channel they came in, or maybe it's the product they came in from. There is never a day you're not going to learn something or be able to retest on that. And so it's prioritizing those tests is going to be critical.
Right. So you talked about acquisition, and I was curious to know that what kind of products do you use to drive acquisition? Is it the ones which have the highest contribution margin, like you mentioned, or are they the ones which just have the highest pull in the market, or are they your starter kits which are like smaller size, smaller AOV products?
Yeah, so it's fascinating, isn't it? The for us as a reseller, it's quite hard for us to go out and market brands that we sell, because we are tending to then to fire those customers into Google searches for those brands, or and they may find those brands in other places. So we have a few exclusives. We will put those exclusive brands into our funnel, and then we as products that we can take through the funnel with a sort of peace of mind that they can only come to us. But actually, you're right. The starter kits are the product that for us makes the most sense. It's something we can curate. There's a little bit more margin in that for us. And we have a really great story. It's also, starter kits are a problem solution kind of product as well. On many different levels, we have 7 different types of starter kit for different types of chapters in the lives, everything from teen to menopause, and we focus our landing page efforts on both all the kits, but also people can come in through a channel, just sleep, for instance, and they can come in, see an ad for sleep starter kit, and they can go just to a sleep landing page, and we then take the customer through that journey on a landing page. We're using Replo to build our landing pages, and we're creating very, I would say, old school direct response style ads that are just taking the customer through that product into an upsell at checkout and out again. And then we're letting our CRM team pick up the pieces on where and taking that customer on the next part of their journey to build lifetime value. So very, very specific and strategic. And for us, the acquisition piece is very problem solution orientated. But yeah, looking at contribution and margin, again, as you say, really important. And that for us, if we can get the customer through on a starter kit, and I suppose if you think about this, I'm not always the biggest, controversially not the biggest fan of Gary Vaynerchuk, but he did write an interesting book called Jab, Jab, Right Hook, where he talks about just helping, taking the customer through a journey with maybe a small purchase and gaining their trust, and then coming back with CRM on a bigger purchase. And that's essentially what we're trying to do as well.
I see. So I saw on your website as well that right when I landed, the main banner talks about the character kit, and it is oriented towards that. Probably like for hair care, you're giving a whole kit of all of those products at a very affordable range, so people can try it out.
Yeah.
So wanted to understand how your retention journey looks like. What is your retention strategy then? Like people come, they might discover the starter kit, the hair kit, they might get maybe 5 products there. But then do you end up selling larger packs of those all of those products, or is it like just some singular products which you focus on next, or is it like a complete cross sell which you might be doing
So
after that?
actually, the answer is actually all of the above. So we are taking the individual customers' purchase, and we look at them in lots of different ways. There's an element of RSM analysis that we're doing, where we're trying to understand the what cohort that customer might fit into, and then matching them to products. We're looking at, did they come in on a starter kit, and is it skincare orientated? Therefore, let's put them into matching skincare. But actually, sometimes when they come in on, we can take them through skincare, get them really comfy on what they're doing with skincare, and move them into, have you tried this makeup? So if you looked at our Klaviyo flows, you would see there is a lot of them, because we are always looking at different routes that we can bring customers into, and we're also trying to find ways to predict if a customer's coming in on a moisturizer, what would their next product be, and what is the next product we can offer them. We're also using tools which are kind of linked to Klaviyo, like Relo is a really good example, where we are using a tool that triangulates the customer's buying behavior, how often they've bought a individual product, and if they bought it in every 30 days they've bought that product, then we're aiming that product that Relo will day 25 the next time send them an email saying, hey, you must be running out by now, buy a new one. So we're using a mixture of different tools as well to try and get those customers to come back and think ahead. We're also using a subscription engine for certain products, especially that works with our supplements and our wellness range. And then we have people inside our SMS, and we're driving SMS traffic mostly for new launches. Our customers are very big fans of brand new products that are coming in, so we'll push SMS into new launches, especially because that tends to be where there's a lot of excitement.
I see. So you are actually using SMS for your sale days to just create that excitement about the promotions, and you're not just slowly happening on email, from what I could understand.
Yes, yeah. So email is the always the fundamental. We start with email. We have a welcome flow, but we are also off the back of that. SMS is becoming more and more of an important channel. We're also very cognizant of the issues with Gmail and Yahoo Mail, and keeping a very close eye on the developments with that. And so for us, while we definitely see that email is an obvious choice for us and relatively efficient, we also know that SMS, when you get it right, when you can get the messaging right and you can get it right into people's phone inboxes with either a strong message, it might be a discount, but it's also often about new products and newness, then that becomes a very strong message. Back in stock stories, also very strong messages for us on SMS.
Good. So, what are the main learnings you've had in terms of email? Like you talked about, you constantly optimize the journeys, you personalize the product level. Like what are the main things that have worked for you to drive the right amount of attention?
So do you know what the funny thing is, that I'm leaning more and more. We did spend quite a lot of time creating really beautiful looking emails and with lots of images, and we played around a lot with titles and buttons and the call to action messages in the buttons on the email. And actually, more recently, we've gone back and simplified to text. More text only, more personal messaging. This week, if you're on our mailing list, you will get an email from our head of buying about a particular product range. And that's just a text-based email. There's no pictures. It's literally just her story. It's talking about a hair care range that we are stocking, that we've been talking a lot about broadly during a period of this month. But she's talking about her own story, her own hair care story, and then giving the customer a link to the range itself. So we're keeping it really simple, and that's fascinating, because I think that there's so much noise in email that actually sometimes keeping it really simple, having a 2 or 3 paragraphs and a limited time offer, can actually be even more compelling than a very pretty, highly designed email.
That is very interesting, because I've actually realized the same thing on WhatsApp as well, where if you have those really polished images and like a lot of polished text, it seems like a promotion. It seems like a marketer has written it, and it doesn't seem like a friend is like messaging you. And whereas WhatsApp is like a personal medium, and if you just keep a very good text message, you keep it interactive, you get someone to like maybe press a button, then that just ends up making it much more engaging and like a much higher conversion than like a very beautifully written message.
I think you're right. Look, in our business especially, where transparency and authenticity are really important, I think that those kind of simple messages, which are highly personalized as well, but fundamentally simple and not over designed, can be really important for this kind of business. I can see how that translates. I mean, you can obviously see how that's going to translate into potentially into SMS, definitely into WhatsApp, as you say. So yeah, I think there's a theme. I do think that as we move through this year, there is going to be more simplicity in the way that people send emails, and some of that will also just be because we're all trying to avoid spam rates and try to be really focused in how we're sending emails.
You were talking a little bit about all the changes which were happening on the Gmail and Yahoo side. Can you actually elaborate a bit on that and how it affected you as well?
Well, look, I think if anyone who's in ecom and has been living in a cave has missed the news that Gmail and Yahoo have changed the game a little bit in how spam complaints can impact your ability to deliver messages to your database. For us, when the news came out, we immediately started to react with looking back at the emails we send and what the impact might have been. Now, we have never been in a 3 in 1,000, I think the number is, spam send. So if in your and this is also something that's really unclear because the way that the rules in inverted commas have been written by Google or Gmail has not been clear. Is this a spam rate for a whole email campaign? Is it for a month? Is it for there's no time period. It's very unclear what we're actually trying to do. So we're all slightly in the dark, scrabbling around trying to figure this out. But we've basically taken the view that if we think about every single send we do, making sure spam complaint rate is under 3 in 1,000 is really important. And we're always way under that, but we're also always petrified. We have made it much easier for customers to unsubscribe, which is part of the best practice anyway, but is now something that's even more important. And we're also way more deliberate and in our sends and our segmentation. So we're trying to make our segmentation even more personalized and that, what I talked about earlier regarding just the text only messages, trying to make customers want to read the emails, engage with the emails, and not hit that dreaded spam button.
Right. So 3 in 1,000. That is a number to keep in mind.
It feels like a lot, but actually we've always been way under. So I think we had sleepless nights about it, even though we knew we were always way under. But it does feel like a lot. But I think that the biggest fear is one bad send. Is that all it takes?
Yeah. So there's definitely going to be a lot of anxiety because of rule changes, constant changes which happen with this. Email
I think you're right.
Very easy to unsubscribe recently, right? In the last,
yes, for sure. Yeah, they've done everything almost to make it harder for us as e-commerce businesses. But at the same time, I think that this is an ongoing situation where we all need to evolve all the time anyway. We'd realized that there was more work we could do on our SMS, and we really started. This is 2023 with the year we really built our SMS. Back end of last year, we were talking to build in the WhatsApp element because that we'd already done that with customer care. We'd worked on customer care and moving into WhatsApp. Really, in the beginning of 2023 was when we made that change, and it was incredible because we'd had SMS available to us and so communicating with customers with SMS through customer care. And the day we switched on WhatsApp, we didn't get a single connection from SMS that day, and that week we barely got it was a handful. And actually I could switch off our SMS and just have WhatsApp only as a connection for our customers. Customers are not using SMS with us. So we know that now that we can move customers into SMS and into WhatsApp, not just from a customer care perspective, but from a marketing perspective. It obviously makes a ton of sense. And hopefully, well, yes, of course, while Meta obviously own WhatsApp and we don't know what controls they may put into the marketing element, we do know that there is right now a really strong opportunity to be very, very targeted if we can, once we can really understand more and more about that particular channel.
Yeah, absolutely. And it makes sense from a customer point of view because you are using WhatsApp almost an hour every day. That is what I read, that people use WhatsApp for like, in fact, 2 to 3 hours on an average every day
I,
because they're just talking to their friends there. And if it's that easy to reach out to a brand, you don't have to call them, you don't have to send an email, don't have to send an SMS, then people end up just ditching all those channels and reaching out on WhatsApp. It's like whenever they respond, you will be the first to see it.
yeah,
Right. Super
and
convenient.
I think, look, it's country specific, and I know, the UK is a WhatsApp country. Coming from the US business at Beachbody, which was less of a WhatsApp country, but there is certainly was more people using WhatsApp, but it was definitely not as big a part of the channel mix. But you
Yeah.
can see the opportunity, for sure, and I think it's very untapped. If you think about how people are using WhatsApp, you're right. If anyone who's listening to this, watching this particular podcast goes into their screen time on their phone, and a WhatsApp user, and they see how many hours a week they've got WhatsApp open or is being used, I think they'd be surprised. And when you put that relative to, is it a better marketing channel than an app? I think that there is definitely opportunities there that are different to what you can have if you have an app on your device. So I think there's some really interesting opportunities for marketers in this in the WhatsApp game.
Yeah, yeah, clearly. In fact, we are still in the early stages of WhatsApp marketing. Very few people are doing it in e-commerce at least. I definitely see travel companies doing it whenever I book a flight. I do get some updates there, like even sometimes while taking the train, I got an update. But in e-commerce, very few people are doing that. So as a result, when you send out these messages, like 70-80% of the people end up opening because it's the first time they've gotten a message from a business and it just feels so good. So it is that opportunity to engage your customers really well for the first time, and like at the same time get a really great open rate and like a click rate and all of that, which follows. Like what excites you to start like WhatsApp marketing? How would you think about beginning?
Well, I think there's so many different things, elements you've just talked about, but I do think that the fact that this is almost an always on app on most people's devices, and so I know some people are also using WhatsApp on their laptops as well, but it's an always on. The level of communication, I can't think I should count back how many messages a day I get and how many conversations I'm in via WhatsApp, whether it's with my family or friends or business related. But it's definitely an always on app for a lot of us who are sort of busy trying to communicate across, especially when we're communicating across time zones or international as well. It's just a really efficient way to communicate. So for me, that piece of the always on is the most fascinating. But when you tie that back into the data that Meta already has, from the Facebook ads, from the Instagram stuff that we're doing, these channels are big channels for us. So tie that all in, triangulate that data, and put it into WhatsApp, and I think you've got a very strong proposition. I'm actually really shocked that Meta haven't done more with this already. I feel it's like underdeveloped right now. Maybe that's because of the fact that it isn't such a big proposition in the US, and they haven't really, they're very US focused with their development, but clearly a huge opportunity that's coming down the pipe.
Yeah.
And I think that the interesting thing will be, and if you look at Telegram as a really great example as an alternative to the channel, how Telegram has built in commerce uh, into its, I suppose, app, and how you can converse, but also create checkouts and that kind of thing. That seamless way that Telegram has done that is what for sure will happen with WhatsApp.
I actually have a slightly controversial opinion of why Meta is not pushing this so much
Go
because
on.
there are two things you can notice, right? Where WhatsApp actually helps. One is in your retention journey, engaging your customers after they have bought. So if somebody is your customer and you've segmented them, and instead of you sending engaging those people on Meta channels, right, to bring them back, you can engage them on WhatsApp, and those people just get that message for sure, and they end up coming back. Right, it actually reduces your ad spend for your retention and redirects it to WhatsApp really cheaper, right, for you. So it's redirecting your ad spend there. And in fact, the same thing for your retargeting. Like if people add them on your website, you collect their first party data, I mean, they can opt in, and then you send them an abandoned checkout message or like a drop off kind of message or a welcome flow on WhatsApp. It will like take away ad budget away from your retargeting spend into WhatsApp and like give a brand the same result, right? So I guess
Well,
like there are two
that's
methods just competing for the.
that's funny. Yeah, well, that's a fascinating conspiracy theory, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that plays out.
Yeah. But I wanted to shift gears a little bit into Black Friday as well. And I
Yeah, for
saw
sure.
that actually I have one more question before I go towards that about retention. And I saw that on your website you have a very strong loyalty program. It is highlighted. You have loyalty, you have referrals and rewards. And can you talk about how you ended up how you thought about building that program and what is really working out for you? How do you get people to actually join the team club?
Yeah, look, it's what we call the Team Club, and it's built with the Oppo. I think that a lot of Shopify businesses are using that as a tool. There's a few others, but the fundamentals were built before I came, but when on board. But we made a significant amount of changes over the back end of 2023 and into 2024 on how we run our loyalty. And I think the really important thing when anyone is looking at a loyalty plan, and we're bringing people in, we're giving them a set number of points based on their spend, which is to be used on a future spend. And it really, the way the Oppo works is it turns the points into a code. Before we were allowing customers to use any amount of their points, potentially to they could get a completely free product. They could check out for nothing if they had used their all their points or a substantial number of their points on a deal. It's very hard for businesses with low margin businesses to work on that level of generosity. So I definitely, one of the things I would do if you're running or you're thinking about running a loyalty scheme with any of the providers is to look at what you can afford and what would happen if you had 20% of your customers in a day get all their products essentially for free. They may have earned those rewards over a period of a year or longer, and you have to also figure out how long you're allowing the customers to keep those rewards alive from the last spend. But we did some analysis, and we realized that there were days when 20% of our customers weren't having to pay for anything on that particular day because they'd earned all these rewards, and that was actually really hurting us. And even though we were accruing all of these points, and it was part of our P&L and our management accounts, and they had points sitting on balance sheets. So we had accounted for all this, but it's actually the day-to-day life. It's all very well in an accountancy world, but the day-to-day of running a business like that, you need to make some different decisions. And so we actually have changed a lot in recent months. We now have moved a shift so that the points that you acquire, you build into vouchers in £5 increments, and you're able then to spend in £5 increments. And we've also reduced the amount that you can spend against any checkout to 50% of the checkout value, so that we can preserve sort of our contribution on a daily basis. And that has definitely improved. You think about, from a management accounts perspective, we have our gross sales and then, discounts and loyalty. And what our aim is to reduce the impact of discounts and loyalty to get to our net sales number, and really help. That will definitely then help us with building out a sort of stronger target cost per acquisition as well, because we will have a little bit more money to spend there. So far, we've done that. We haven't noticed any major impact in our conversion rate from doing that. In fact, we think that actually will have the opposite effect. But it's fairly new. There's a lot of data to run. But I would definitely, my biggest, I suppose, watch out for anyone looking at these loyalty schemes is to be really careful how you build it out and do all the maths on every scenario.
Very, very interesting. So there's a lot of stuff which goes on in in the contribution margin calculation, and this ends up affecting that. And that is one of the ways things you take into account.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure. And you can give points away for lots of different things. So we're giving points away for buying, we're giving points away for leaving a review. You get more points for a video review, you can get points for your birthday. All of those things need to be taken into account, how generous you want to be. And if you have tiered, so bronze, silver, gold kind of tiers for people as they're earning their points, you can end up being more generous as you get up the tiers, just like airline points. And you have to take all of that into account as well. When you're a small business, that's really important.
Got it. And with this, I would want to shift gears and go into Black Friday. And I remember you guys had a terrific sale during Black Friday. You had this clean break Friday campaign. And
Yeah.
just wanted to understand, what was your strategy for Black Friday? How did it end up working for you? And like, how did the campaign look like overall?
So look, we went into Black Friday kind of running at full pace because we had decided to change our media agency 6 weeks before. Never the best move, but we felt it was a necessary thing. And so we also just had a change in our creative team, which was really positive, but also meant that we were slightly on the back foot in terms of how we had planned the campaign. So Clean Break Friday for us was really about the messaging of Black Friday can be a very big sort of waste from a sustainability point of view, especially in beauty, where people are rushing to buy products that aren't necessarily appropriate for them or their skin, but they're cheap, right? And so they just grab everything. And then it was, for us, we wanted to give the message to people of taking their time to make a clean break with their mainstream beauty, with their toxic skincare, but also to take their time in making the purchase decisions. So we extended our sale. We actually started well over a week before the official Black Friday weekend. And we built out a sort of slow burn campaign of encouraging customers to purchase, but to purchase with intent. And that actually worked really well for us. We had learned a ton of stuff from the past sales. I'd come in the February of 2023. My first sale experience was at Easter. I learned a ton of stuff around how the business needed to adapt in sales. There was last year, there was a bunch of other stuff. There was a bank holiday. There was an additional bank holiday in the UK for the coronation. There was the August bank holiday for us we have, which is always a sale period. So there were lots of sales that I had a chance to learn how to manage contribution, how to manage in our world, in beauty world, we have a rebates and relationships with our vendors that we can get rebates on sale activity. So there's a lot of stuff we were doing, but I was really, again, I go back to the contribution margin. We did a lot of analysis on the contribution margin for a sale, and really tried to move the needle so that we were aiming to move. Really, I wanted to move the contribution margin up 5%. And that was the fundamental mission that we had in a sale period, was to go from where we had been in November 2022 to where we got to in 23. We wanted a 5% improvement on our contribution margin, which we achieved with this campaign. The other thing that I think is really important as well, that people overthink about Black Friday, they do a lot of creative, they put a lot of meta ads together. We actually kept it really simple. We had one very strong message. We had a very, very clear message. And we didn't run a ton of creative. In 2022, we run a lot of creative, and there was different creative almost for every day. We pulled the plug on all of that. We had one piece of strong creative. We put that into a meta campaign and we let it ride. We let it ride from early as well. So we were building up the learnings before the price went up. And then we were very, very careful with spend as we went into the actual core of Black Friday. So that's essentially what we did. We saw actually, we go down to our bottom line. We doubled our bottom line in 2022 to 23. So that gives you a sense of the impact of what we did.
I see. That is a very interesting thing which you did, which was to cut down the clutter, have that simple messaging, and you got the algorithm to learn before the big spending started, actually. So
Yeah,
and then you
and
actually monitored the spend once it had learned.
Yeah, and you know, the cool thing was that we'd spent a lot of time building the SMS database over the sort of, I suppose, really 8 weeks before that.
Right.
And so again, SMS became a big part of the initial campaign, the trigger of the campaign. And then we built out the rest with, you know, Meta and email. But we wanted to make sure as well, I think this is an interesting tip for when you're using SMS and WhatsApp marketing, is that you can treat those customers like VIPs. And give them deals ahead of the email deal, and that actually does help with the retention of your SMS database as well.
Good. That is a very, very exciting strategy. And I guess this is something which can be used for any of these major sales or even the micro events which happen, right? All
Yeah,
of these bank holidays which you talked about, they keep on happening every 3 or 4 months, right?
yeah, for sure. Yeah, and so we're literally doing our kickoff meetings for our Easter sale. Easter's quite early this year, but we had the kickoff meeting probably a little later than we would normally have it. But yeah, we're taking all the learnings and being very deliberate once again, keeping the period relatively short, keeping the messaging very strong but very clear and very simple, and keeping the creative very tight. And actually restricting the creative to just a few pieces of content in the different sizes we need for the campaigns.
Awesome. This was all very, very actionable, Thomas. Thanks a lot for sharing. We just have a couple of minutes left, and in that, I would actually want to ask you a bit of rapid fire questions.
Sure thing. I'm like, okay, well, I'm nervous already, so yeah, fire away.
So the first question is, which is your favorite marketing book or podcast?
Oh wow, okay. So apart from this one, the podcast, actually I'm a huge fan of Mick and Moy's Unlimited Supply. I'm part of that community, so big fan of that. And it actually, Wednesdays when that drops, I'm always really excited to make my commute. But actually, I'm, as a category designer myself, and obsession with category design, I'm also in the Category Thinkers community, and they have a podcast themselves, which is, I think, goes quite deep into category design. Can be a bit too much for people, but for me, I really enjoy that ability to think through, and they sort of workshop category design concepts with businesses, which I find fascinating. And for the people who have not understood or don't know what category design is, then take a look at the category pirates who I worked with at the Beachbody company, or Al Ramadan who wrote the book Play Bigger. Those kind of resources will give you a sense of what my passion is for how we solve problems in e-commerce.
I'm also like a huge fan of the Liberty Supply podcast community. That's great. So the next question is, which is your favorite marketing tool?
Oh wow, okay. So I actually there's two tools I use every day within this business. The first one is not so much a marketing tool, but it's actually a contribution margin tool that also takes your contribution margin and brings it down into your marketing. It's a very small Irish company that run this app called Store Hero. I check it out. It's really cool, and actually it gives me some really, really granular data, especially around the order data, but also it brings that data down into my individual pieces of creative on Facebook. So I use that in conjunction with the data and the analytics that I get from my media agency, but it's perfect. I think from just marketing tool in general, I am now, I think, probably obsessed with what we can do in SMS and what we can do with WhatsApp. And there's a ton of tools out there. And depending on where you are in the world, some are better than others. If you're listening in the US, then there's also tools like Postscript, which are really, really cool SMS tools. They don't necessarily work in the same way, but if you're in the UK or other countries. So in the UK, for instance, I always encourage people to do their research on what is the tool that's going to work for them. Quite often, it isn't Klaviyo, which everyone thinks it's going to be. It's you have to go through and do the maths on every single send and try and work back to see what a send looks like. And it's a bit like when, oh God, it was like the 90s trying to work out whether your mobile phone contracts, how many SMSs you were allowed and what it was when you went over your limits. And it's like the old days for those of us that remember that. But I would just say, yeah, look for SMS and what that Lime, of course, is a great resource as well. But that for me is where we're playing. And we're really excited about the opportunities that brings from an engagement point of view, way beyond what we think, from an ROI perspective. We believe that the opportunity is way bigger than what we're going to be able to do on email, even with small databases.
Okay, so the next question is that if you had to sum up your leadership style in one word, what would it be?
Okay, I think, do you know what? I'm going to say empowering. I pride myself on building great teams with great people, and when I build a team with great people, I don't want to micromanage them. So I empower them to tell me how to run their part of the business, and my job is to help with the questions and understands the analytics piece of that. But I want them to fundamentally get onto it. I want them to feel empowered to be able to run their part of the business. So I'm hoping that they would agree that they feel empowered. But that's what I'm going to say.
Awesome. And one final question. So what do you do after reaching home after a super hectic day at work?
Well, often I work out not very far away actually, but actually a very long commute nonetheless. It can take anything from an hour and 15-20 minutes to 2 hours for me to get to the other side of London, where I have the Naturisimo headquarters and our distribution center. I don't get a lot of time by the time I get home so I might normally say I fall asleep, but actually I'm a child of the 70s, and I grew up in the second summer of love, as they called it, in Manchester, with a very strong music scene. I learned to DJ, a house music DJ, when I was I suppose at university, and I carried on that hobby. So if you ever saw me in a working from home, I'm in my office right now, but if you saw the camera when I'm working from home, you see my music setup, my Technics 1210s, my digital decks, and all my records behind me. That's my true passion. I can get lost in that, and always bigly regret that I never got to be on the stage of a big event in Ibiza or Vegas or something like that as a DJ. That was the real dream.
It's very interesting. Awesome, Thomas. It was really great having you on the podcast. Thanks a lot, especially for sharing all of these actionable insights around retention and around the right tools to use with. And for anyone who wants to continue to get actionable strategies on other challenging problems that you face, feel free to follow our episodes and subscribe to the channel.
Brilliant. Look, thank Anika. This has been a lot of fun. Thanks everyone for listening as well. And if everyone has any questions, want to reach out, then feel free to add me on LinkedIn, DM me, and I'm very happy to chime in on anything category design, e-commerce as well. But this has been great. Thanks very much for the invite.
Thank you. Bye. Have a good day.